I've been asked to run how to scan a quick brain sequence on a Siemens scanner. Today I'm on a Magnetome Avanto. I've already loaded my favorite service patient or service dude. I've already got my head coil in the magnet with a cylindrical phantom on there. I've already loaded up most of the parameters for the study. I'm just going to pull down here, go to the brain, go to routine. I'm going to select head first supine. Most heads, I would say 999 million out of a billion, are head first supine or nose up. And then once all of the systems, once all the parameters that are bold are filled in, we'll get our exam tab, which will allow us to go forward more. It wants us to confirm the patient. Click OK. Alright, so if we look here, this localizer right here, I know it's kind of tough to see, does not have the working man or this icon right here. So the second I click and drag him or highlight the localizer and click to the left here, it's instantly going to start to run the scan. Let me back the camera up a little bit here. Alright, so let's just click the localizer. I'm just going to click and hold and drag it to the left and then let go. It's going to verify that the patient table may move during the scanning to get the head coil more positioned in the ISO center if it needs to. Just going to click continue. It's going to start to adjust the frequency transmitter. It's going to do a directional coupler test. It's going to test the coil sensitivity. Unlike an A series magnet, B series magnets, or Avanto, Esprit, Symphony TEM, Trio TEM, they have more broadband coils, so the body tune box that you would use on a Symphony or Harmony is not needed in this scenario. So we're going to get our first localizer images up here. That's because in the protocol, if we double click here and we bring up the protocol, it's going to show you all the parameters that it used to get this image, and that can be changed under the Exam Explorer. But if we right click onto the localizer and hit properties, the reason why these images came up is because under auto load, the load images to viewer and load images to stamp segments and load images to graphic segments under default were checked in the protocol. So if they're not checked when you build the protocol, they will just sit here. They won't load into the timestamp right here. They'll always load in your graphical representations, but they won't load into the timestamp. So now every scan that I do next, after the localizer, will load into the next image stamp. So if I wanted to click, let's say, a T1 Sag, I'm going to actually use the left buttons. I'm going to bring that over. It has the working man here. Notice I click and dragged or copied it. So it has the working man, so it's not going to automatically start. I want to get rid of this. I can highlight it and hold with the left click, drag it into the garbage bin, and it's gone. Notice it's not running. I have to actually click open. We're going to click open. That's going to bring up these yellow graphical representations of our slice groups. So each view here is a different view. So this is your sagittal, this is a coronal, and this is your transverse or your axial plane. So every time I move these, you can see I can increase or decrease my field of view. Well, this one's maxed out, but through here I can increase or decrease. This would be my phase encoding direction. And if I go in the middle, I can move the physical slice locations in the anatomy. Now, I want to see more of the head, so I'm going to right click anywhere in the area, and I'm going to click zoom and pan. Once zoom and pan is on, notice if I'm into the box to the right of the mouse, I have an up and down and left and right arrow set. If I start to move out, you'll notice that I start to see a big box with a little box. That means I can now zoom and pan. So I'm just going to click that, and I'm going to drag my mouse out, and I'm going to zoom out. Why? Because I wanted to see more of the graphical representation of these slices. I'm just going to move them in there a little bit more. Now, because this is a head scan, and I'm using the head coil, I get a graphical representation of each head coil element. So this would be head 1, 2, 3, 4. I could turn them on or off by clicking them. So that would be off. So if I turn them on, now I'm using all 4. So if I hover over this head coil element, you're going to see that I have a line through there. That means you're turning it off. When it's off and I move out and come back in, you don't see a line. That's because I'm turning it on. So we're going to click there. Alright, so now here I can increase or decrease my slice, my distance factor, etc. So I've always liked 27 slices, so we'll back that out and go to 27. I know as soon as I hit enter, the scan assistant is going to come up and tell me I need to change something else. It's like, yep, you went from 25 to 27 slices. Your TR, time to relaxation, now needs to go up to 425 milliseconds. It's fine. We're going to click OK. But notice that we're going to get a bigger slice group over that. I can also change that with slice thickness. I can also change that with distance factor. The distance factor would be how much distance between each slice there is, whereas the slice thickness would be how thick each slice is. And again, this is just one step above running a basic scan. I am not a protocol expert by any means necessary. So if I hit scan, that'll copy this protocol and create a new one. If I click apply, it'll just go. So we're going to click apply. Now it's going to scan. Notice that it didn't need to do a frequency or transmitter because it already has that information in the localizer. It's just going to use that information for the next. Now if I were to move the patient table in or out, or if I was to set a new localizer, let's say if I was going to do a head and a C-spine, and now I was going to localize the center of my scan on the C-spine coil, it would do another adjust frequency and adjust transmitter. And again, for the frequency, the B-series magnets, it's more of a broadband coil, so you don't really need the body tune box. And then the transmitter, these systems, whether it be an A, B, C, or D series magnet, it's all going to go to try to attain a flip angle of 180. That would be the maximum flip angle that you would ever need, even though you would not most likely scan at a 180 degree flip angle. So I'm just going to let this go. I might as well just continue talking for another minute and 51 seconds. We'll go over some of the stuff. Now, beauty part about the Siemens magnets being on a Windows box is that hover works. So if I move my mouse and I hover and I wait long enough, I'm going to get what this actual button is. So this is the position toolbar. If I hover again, this is the inline display. If I hover again, it's going to be your table positioning. Here you can actually move the table in or out via software. You can move it all the way out. You can move it near home. You can turn the fan on. You can turn the lights on or off. Physiological display, that's if you had the pulse meter on or if you had the ECG leads on, you'd be able to click on that and it would show you the graphical representation of what that is. If you were using a scan for an abdomen that was scanning off of the ECG or the respiratory. And to turn that back off, I just hit the physiological display again. This one below here, if I hover again, is the Exam Explorer. That's where you're going to make all of your protocols. So if I click here, you're going to see that there's two trees, the Siemens and the user tree. The Siemens tree, no matter what I click on, like the head, clinical libraries, general, localizer, no matter what I do, I cannot make a change to this. They're there for a reason. You can copy this protocol and then make changes under the user tree, but you cannot make changes under the Siemens tree. So if I click on the user tree, click brain, routine brain, and I double click localizer, now you'll be able to see that I can make as much changes as I'd like because everything is not grayed out. I'm not going to make any changes. I'm just going to click cancel, but that's what that's for. And again, under the Siemens tree, then you have the area, the, what do you call that? You go anatomy, type, This would be, I can't remember. And then the last one is a protocol. I should have researched that before I did the video, but the hell with it. And then the last one down here is SAR information. SAR, or specific absorption rate. So I'm not going to go too much into SAR, but that's where it would be calculated per patient. So we're just going to click close out on that one. So as you can see, the T1 Sag finished, and it loaded into our image stamp. It also loaded into 3 graphical representations. So if I click in this button, I can go through all my slices, so on and so forth. Looks good. Let's run one more. We'll run a diffusion. We're going to click open again. It's going to show you the physical graphical representation of the slice groups. Click on it. Everything looks okay. We're just going to click apply. And on this one, it is going to do what's called the 3D shim field map. What that's doing is the system is actually using the gradients and the advanced high order shim to complete a on-the-fly shim around the graphical representation of the slices to make the imaging volume more homogeneous. And you would want that on a diffusion because it's a very short scan. If we were to double click here, it's got a really short TE with a really long TR, and so you really want to have your sphere as homogeneous as you possibly can have it. I hope I'm not tongue twisting my words, but that's about it. You can increase or decrease slices once you open the protocol, always on the right. The protocol, if I click on it, nothing's going to happen. You always have to have it open. You can always change how many slice groups, your slices, your distance factor, the position, orientation, all that stuff on the right. It's always on the right. You can go to contrast, you can make it a fat sat, you can turn fat sat off, you can change the resolution, you can turn on IPAC, more coils, you can put anything you want to do. It's always on the right. I'm not going to go too much in there, but this is just a little bit more than getting a basic scan, and I hope that's what you wanted. If you need any more, just put it in the comment section below. Thanks.